Barack Obama says he wants to forge a partnership with a strong, prosperous and peaceful Russia. The U.S. leader urged Moscow to leave past rivalries behind and work together towards shared goals, such as stopping the spread of nuclear weapons. The American president's key visit to Russia winds up on Wednesday. Let's assess what's been achieved this week with RT's Natalia Novikova in central Moscow. Hello to you, Natalia. There was a lot of expectation prior to the meetings that Russia and the United States would further advance the positive spirit of their relations. Did they achieve this?
Well, the main outcome of the meeting between Presidents Barack Obama and Dmitry Medvedev is a definite progress in nuclear disarmament talks. The two countries have agreed to cut their stockpiles of nuclear weapons by around a third from the current level. Of course, that is a major achievement. However, the main sticking point that has been holding the two countries back from signing the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, or START II, is the anti-missile defense. And in that respect, not much have been said, but President Barack Obama said that he will take into consideration Russia's concerns over the U.S. plans to deploy its anti-missile shields in Europe. And in response, President Dmitry Medvedev said that what's important is that in the document signed between the two countries, they made a connection between offensive and defensive nuclear weaponry, and President Dmitry Medvedev called that a definite progress and a step forward to signing the new START treaty. And the old Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, which was signed in 1991, is going to expire on the 5th of December, and that is the deadline for signing a new one. Also, the two countries agreed that from now on, U.S. military cargo will be able to cross Russian territory on its way to Afghanistan. Until now, only humanitarian cargo was allowed to go through the country on its way to Afghanistan. And the two countries also signed off a number of other framework agreements, such as setting up a commission to analyze global ballistic missile threat. And of course, in that respect, the subject of North Korea came up, and its recent launches of short-range ballistic missiles. And in that respect, Barack Obama once again reminded that he wanted to see a world free of nuclear weapons. The two presidents also discussed several of other issues, such as energy issues and, of course, global fighting terrorism.
Before his trip to Russia, Barack Obama spoke of Prime Minister Vladimir Putin having one foot firmly rooted to a Cold War past. Did his opinion change after meeting Putin in person?
Well, in fact, the meeting was held in a warmer manner than anyone could have expected. And the U.S. President Barack Obama appealed to the Russian people to overcome the past differences and start building a prosperous democratic future together. And our correspondents have been following every step President Barack Obama has been making during his visit to the Russian capital.
It's a face-off everyone wanted to see. Up till this moment, relations between the two had defined by some fairly spiky comments for the media. This time the words were chosen just as carefully, but for their diplomacy.
With your name, we associate our hope for a breakthrough in the relations between our countries.
I am aware of not only the extraordinary work that you've done on behalf of the Russian people in your previous role as as president, but in your current role as prime minister.
Ahead of the meeting, Obama said Putin had one foot in the old ways of doing business and one in the new. Putin hit back, saying Russia was standing firm looking into the future. Obama might have changed his mind after this meeting, as Russia's White House spokesman told us.
Got a message from a very good friend of mine who is traveling together with the White House poll. After the meeting, they had a closed briefing for White House traveling poll by a White House official. And listen what he told the journalists. President is now convinced the Prime Minister is a man of today, and he's got his eyes firmly on the future. If it's not the best result, what it is.
Putin was eager to give a truly Russian welcome. The location set the right tone.
I also want to thank the Prime Minister for arranging very nice weather in Moscow.
Obama got a real taste of Russia. For breakfast, they had smoked beluga, black caviar, dumplings and ice cream. On a sunlit veranda set in a forest of birch and pine trees, they sat drinking tea from a samovar kindled in the traditional way, with a Russian jackboot. The menu for the talks, however, was a little harder to digest, including missile defense, Iran and North Korea.
What I witnessed is that President Obama is a very deep person, and he was really very, very transparent and very sincere during his talk with Prime Minister Putin, and it gave them both a very good opportunity to understand them, each other.
Meeting first with the Russian president, then with the Russian prime minister, Obama was willing to reach out to the country's policymakers. In order to reach out to the Russian people, he chose to talk to the graduates of the new economic school.
And it was here that Barack Obama lived up to his reputation as a compelling speechmaker. Just like in Cairo, the US president produced something of a historic address.
There is the 20th century view that the United States and Russia are destined to be antagonists, and that a strong Russia or a strong America can only assert themselves in opposition to one another. And there is a 19th century view that we are destined to vie for spheres of influence, and that great powers must forge competing blocks to balance one another. These assumptions are wrong. In 2009, a great power does not show strength by dominating or demonizing other countries. The days when empires could treat sovereign states as pieces on a chessboard are over.
But it seems the proposed reset wasn't limited to politics and attitude alone. He was keen to push economic ties. Addressing the country's business elite, he noted that trade had barely grown in real terms since the end of the Cold War. A sentiment echoed by Dmitry Medvedev, who agreed the countries could achieve much more.
For Russia, the United States is a long-time promising partner. We have many plans which have not yet been realized. Despite the cold breath of the previous difficulties and despite the global crisis, the desire of our businessmen to take part in joint projects has not cooled down. This is very good.
Several important business deals were signed during the forum, including construction of Pepsi plant in the Moscow region and supplying Boeing with Russian titanium. But it wasn't only economy which dominated Obama's second day in the Russian capital. After meeting the country's business elite and those in power, the US president went to talk to those on the other side of political life. It is almost a tradition for visiting American presidents to meet with the Russian opposition. President Obama was no exception, meeting with Garry Kasparov, the ex-grandmaster who swapped a brilliant chess career for a political one. Few in Russia know what his political program is, however many have heard of his alliance with Eduard Limonov, leader of the National Bolshevik movement, outlawed in Russia for extremism. But what exactly Kasparov and other opposition leaders talked about with Obama remains a mystery, as it was all done behind closed doors.
Maybe it's just a political gesture on behalf of the American administration to recognize that there is an opposition in force, and just to also recognize that Russia does have some form of democracy, but at the end of the day, the Obama administration, as far as I read it, fully supports the current administration that is in power right now.
When Obama arrived on Monday, the weather was unusually chilly, but as the visit continued, the sun came out and Moscow warmed up. The question now is if that will be reflected in the forecast for Russia-US relations, and whether along with the fine words, there's been a genuine reset.
That were our correspondents Alexandra Kosharnitskaya and Alexei Yarashevsky reporting on the second day of Barack Obama's visit to Moscow. Now, the two presidents have said their goodbyes, but not for a long time, because both of them are now heading to Italy for the G8 summit, where a whole new number of issues is waiting for them on the agenda.
Natalia, thank you very much for this indeed. RT's Natalia Noviko reporting from central Moscow.